back. In the previous tutorial segment, we created an almost empty composite service which accepts incoming CMS messages. It has a mediator mediating between incoming message format and internal message format, and then it has a DeepL process that doesn't really do anything at the moment. In order to take this tutorial further, we first need to create a simulator for partner management system. Basically what we want to do is that when the invoice comes in, we want to check if this company is known that is sending us an invoice, if we have a kind of an ongoing or valid contract with them, and if the contract still has a monetary value available. So we might have a contract about, for example, service being rendered or some goods being delivered, and this company might deliver it in phases and they might send multiple bills. So we want to track that there is the cumulative value of those invoices doesn't exceed what is in the contract. If all of these criteria met, then we assume that this optical character recognition and data capture has worked correctly, and we can pass this forward for manual inspection and goods receipt here. And in a kind of realistic scenario, there probably would be more tests, but this is kind of basically this tutorial is showing the mechanics of doing stuff. So let's get started, and first we'll create just a couple of auxiliary tables simulating this partner management system. We won't actually wrap these tables around in another composite service like we did in the first tutorial set, but we'll directly interface with the tables from our composite service for this second tutorial set. But first let's start by creating database tables, and we do that with the tool called SQLDeveloper, which we already met in the first tutorial series. And if you don't have that tool, or if you didn't follow the first tutorial set, you can just download it from Oracle. Just go to Google and say SQLDeveloper, and it will provide you for a link that way you can download it. Alright, I have a number of existing connections already here from previous trials, but let's, for the sake of learning, let's create a new database connection. So let's call this, for example, tutorial 2 connection. Then we need to have one user which already exists in the table and password. We can say the save password so that we don't have to retype the password again when we open this connection further. I press this test button, it's successful. I can press the connect button, so we connect to the database table. Oh, sorry, to the database. I can open that connection. I have a couple of tables from the previous tutorial set. Let's create a new one representing the vendor. First, let's create a vendor table. Let's call the first column, for example, vendor ID. Let's make it a number. We also want to make it a primary key. If you remember, you can switch between this advanced and simple view. So by default, you should open into this simple view, and if you select this checkbox, you go back to this advanced view. So you can kind of toggle between these two views. Let's create another column here called name. Let's make it the Partsaran 32. And let's say that this cannot be null also. Alright, so now we have a vendor table with a couple of fields. What we can do again is that what we did in first tutorial, let's create a sequence where we automatically create the vendor IDs. Whenever there's a new row entered to the database table, we don't have to type the IDs, but let's have the database auto-create IDs for us. So for that we need to first create a sequence. Let's call it, for example, vendor sequence. Start with 1, increment by 1, no max value. Let's execute that one, see if it works. It was successful, and then create the trigger. For each row begin, select vendor sec next val into let's execute that. Alright, let's then add something to this vendor table. So let's go to data tab and let's just say that we have a vendor called test vendor. Let's commit that one. Alright, we have one working table, so let's create the other table here also. Sorry, let's go to this tables, new table. And let's call the second table, for example, contract. Let's create, for example, contract number. Let's make it varchar. 64, it could be long. We probably cannot be null. We create another, let's go to vendor ID. And this one is a number. It probably shouldn't be null. And let's create a column called remaining value. In a realistic scenario, this probably would be stored somehow differently. Let's make this number and let's make it 6.2. Let's create another value called total value. This is a kind of an original value. Number also 6.2. And then let's add, for example, this IBAN number. Let's make this 64. Another one for Swift. Again 64. And let's also create a field called account number. Let's make it again 64. All right. At least those should be not now. All right, so let's create it like that. We can anyway later change it if it's if you are not happy with the way it works. All right, so now we have created a couple of tables using SQLDeveloper. So I think it wants to store these scripts we used in this tutorial connection. So let's, for example, save this. Alright, so we are ready. Now we have created 2 additional tables for mocking up the partner management system and this kind of a contract management system. So that's all for this tutorial. Thanks for viewing and see you in the next one.